Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the lefts, we go up to the rights, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Despite the devastating loss of Charlie Kirk, my incredible husband at UVU, Caleb has persisted with the same grit. It has been a long day. Trust me, you're not a grifter, honey. It's all good.
Ooh. What they always say, the first answer is the real answer. I'm just pointing out there from the evil, wicked witch of the West, always known as Erika Kirk. But anyway, welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here. The podcast is all about the news and give you the news straight up. Yes, today's date, as you probably will get this, is December 24, 2025. So happy Christmas Eve, everybody. And on How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, I'll let you know that we do pride ourselves on Beyond News Podcast. We only cite from reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply don't do that. At the same time, guys, we do try to pride ourselves on maintaining professionalism, but words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So your discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, yes, that was the grifter herself, Erika Kirk, at America Fest, which we'll get into not too long from now, because she did slip up. I mean, completely and utterly slip up saying the word grift because, well, your husband did it, and now you're doing it. And now you're teaching the next generation how to do it. So grifter's going to grip. But we'll get into America Fest and the reason why she should stand by her man, her future man, J.D. Vance. I feel sorry for his wife because good freaking grief, that train wreck scandal is going to be. But anyway, starting first, because Taco likes to rename everything in his image because he believes he's this great man, but really he's a piece of shit. That being said, he basically wants to rename the Kennedy Center and, well, a few problems with that.
White House says the board of Washington's iconic Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts has given it a new name, the Trump Kennedy Center.
Well, I was honored by it. The board is a very distinguished board, most distinguished people in the country.
Earlier this year, the president blasted the Kennedy Center's programming as too liberal and criticized the appearance of the building. He ousted most of the previous board members, installed himself as chairman, and hosted the Kennedy Center Honors, while securing $250 million from Congress for renovations.
We saved the building. The building was in such bad shape, both physically, financially, and every other way, and now it's very solid, very strong.
But Democrats tonight are outraged.
This is not legal. You can't do this.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt posted the Board of Trustees' vote to rename the center was unanimous. Not so, says Democratic Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, who's part of the board, adding she tried to object at the end of today's call.
I was muted, and as I continued to try to unmute to ask questions and voice my opposition to this, I received a note saying that I would not be unmuted.
It's the latest example of President Trump looking to reshape Washington, building a massive White House ballroom, installing these new partisan plaques in the White House colonnade, and renaming D.C.'s Institute of Peace the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace. Now, Democrats are asking whether this latest name change is allowed. Former Democratic Congressman Joe Kennedy, one of JFK's grandnephews, writing, "The Kennedy Center is a living memorial to a fallen president and named for President Kennedy by federal law. It can no sooner be renamed than can someone rename the Lincoln Memorial."
And Gabe, another headline we're following tonight. The president has been on defense on the economy, but he got some good news on the cost of living today.
Yes, Tom, new numbers show inflation has dropped from 3% in September down to 2.7%, much lower than expected. Core inflation hitting its lowest level since 2021, though analysts warn there are gaps in the data because of the government shutdown.
Yeah, so about that. Yeah, the gaps in the government shutdown was also done by the Department of Commerce, which, by the way, also was gutted and replaced by Taco loyalists. So Again, that data came from the Department of Commerce. That's now under Taco, so I wouldn't really take that with a grain of salt. At the same time, the Kennedy Center, you actually need congressional approval to actually change the name of that. So as much as Taco would love to put his name on everything, good freaking luck trying to get down the Kennedy Center, because again, it takes congressional approval. It'd be no different than him trying to put his name on the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, and various other monuments that have already been named and locked in by federal law. So there you go. But yes, inflation, come on now. He caused it. Me have said many a times here on this podcast that he has caused inflation. His tariffs have caused costs to go up because, again, he believes we're getting screwed. And for anybody that believes he's a great businessman are the same people that I believe should be drug tested, because there's no way on God's green earth a con man that has filed bankruptcy multiple times for all of his failed businesses is going to sit there and tell you America's getting a bad deal. If you haven't noticed, he's running this country the same way he's running his businesses. But you can't put the country in bankruptcy. Won't keep him from trying though. But outside of that, he also signed an executive order for reclassification of cannabis. And before you people get happy, I have some disappointing news for you.
Emphasize that the order I am about to sign is not the legalization, or it doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. It has nothing to do with it. At the same time, the facts compel the federal government to recognize that marijuana can be legitimate in terms of medical applications when carefully administered. In some cases, this may include the use as a substitute for addictive and potentially lethal opioid painkillers. They cause tremendous problems. This can do it in a much lesser way, can make people feel much better. This reclassification order will make it far easier to conduct marijuana-related medical research, allowing us to study benefits, potential dangers, and future treatments. It's going to have a tremendously positive impact.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it right there. Number one, there are already marijuana studies out there. Well before Taco was president, they had smaller studies of marijuana and its effects. We have been over this time and time again. And again, I am not a consumer of marijuana. I'm not against those that smoke it, eat it, or however you may consume or ingest it. I am not against it. Why? Because the marijuana plant has multiple medicinal as well as applicational properties that can be used among a various tirade of things, especially for those for PTSD. That actually is a nice, for those with PTSD, for anxiety, things of that nature, or seizures and seizures, things of that nature, have been applied using cannabis or cannabis oil thing or CBD or things of that nature. They have all been proven effective. The problem is, and as I've said before on this show, the problem is that they will not concede that the war on drugs was bullshit. Because that's all it comes down to. Because he can sit there and let me tell you something about executive orders. Executive orders, honestly, and I don't mean to be so frank on Christmas Eve, but executive orders don't mean shit unless Congress does something. Him signing an executive order reclassifying cannabis does nothing. It does nothing. It's literally saying, I am reclassifying cannabis. And what? So studies can occur. Let me call it what it is. Cannabis is basically going to become what moonshine was almost 8-9 years ago. Remember moonshine? Remember the hush about moonshine? Oh, you can't take moonshine. It's illegal. You can't have moonshine. It's legal. You can't. No, you can. And the misconception about moonshine was that you couldn't make it or be able to possess it. Not true. You can make as much moonshine as you want. You can consume as much moonshine as you want if you are of the legal age. The thing about moonshine is you had to pay taxes on selling it. Because let's be honest, most people who consume moonshine, let's be honest, it's under the table. You know, we all know where to go. We all know somebody. We all know where to go. A little money changes hands. Bingo, bango. You got yourself some good old white lightning or whatever you choose to prefer. The only thing about it is moonshine became commercialized. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually a fan of moonshine. There's actually various brands out there of moonshine that I actually like. But those companies pay taxes. And now what happened? You can go to any liquor store. You can go to your mall, depending if your mall does have a department store there that sells moonshine. I know here in Tennessee they do. But what I'm getting at is that they legalized it, taxed it, and they legalized it and taxed it. And by legalizing, I mean they tax the actual business of actually making and distributing moonshine as long as you pay taxes. Marijuana could do the same goddamn thing. We have seen it in several cities and states where marijuana is legal, and each of those cities are not having a cash problem. They're having cash overflow problems. And here's the crazy part. Those companies, I mean, banks still shy away from those marijuana companies, saying that they won't hold cash for them. So a lot of marijuana companies are cash heavy, and that's a whole nother ball game. But the point I'm getting at is here, Taco reclassifying marijuana doesn't do shit. It doesn't. You know what will do shit? And I sit there, and you know what? Here's the thing. The first presidential candidate that is brave enough to stand 10 toes down and say this will be the one that more than likely will get the White House by a landslide. If, and I say if, and I won't even say Governor Gavin Newsom, who may potentially be a potential candidate. What I'm saying is, guys, is that whoever that presidential candidate may be, if he or she just simply said, one of my first things I'm going to tackle within the first term is to make marijuana legalized across the 50 states. If that candidate said that and said, yeah, I'm standing 10 toes down on it, I will ensure that marijuana is legal and taxed within the United States in all 50 states. Bing, bing, bing. You have a new platform. And that would be the person, and I will bet money on that. That will be the person that'll be sworn in as the president off one particular platform alone. Although anybody else in the next presidential election can sit there and say everything that Taco did, we're going to undo it within the first 90 days. Also, will get people's attention. But the thing I'm getting at here is, guys, you can call me, it sounds like Will's an advocate for marijuana. And indeed I am, even though I don't partake of it. But at the same time, I see the positives. I see the positives out of this. I see the positives out of taxing a plant that could be a cash boon in areas to where people need jobs, infrastructure, and of course, cash flow. And all that could be solved if we simply legalized it the same way other cities and states have done it. But that will lead to we could be seeing prostitution. Ooh, buddy, prostitution is actually legal in a few states. I'm not going to say which ones, but you have Google. The point I'm getting at is here, the only way to defeat something is not to set a war on it. The best way to defeat something to make it normal is to legalize it. Don't believe me? That's how we got cigarettes and liquor. During that prohibition area when the strictly religious folks have things in cigarettes and liquor, to the point to where even some states, unfortunately, are still under the doggone blue laws where you can't buy alcohol on Sundays because, Jesus. I'm just pointing that out. The best way to handle something is not to start a war, but to legalize it. And Taco is not trying to legalize something that he cannot make money off of. Trust me, if there was a way to put taco weed or Trump weed on something, you don't think he would have done it by now? Oh, they want to badly. And it's only a matter of time because, God forbid, people of color actually come up off weed because, stereotypes. But again, many applications, but we are still stuck in this war on drugs bullshit because we're still bombing boats with very little information, except their source is, trust me, bro, we're the government. I don't trust anybody that's under the Taco administration that honestly hasn't passed a piss test, intelligence, or didn't look like a failed DEI hire on the white side. But speaking of people that really shouldn't be under the microscope, but they are, this case we did cover, guys, of a Wisconsin judge. Judge Hannah, Hannah Duggan. There we go. So Hannah Duggan, for all those who don't remember, we covered the story because, again, remember at the big time when Gestapo and Ice Barbie were just running roughshod over trying to catch all the illegal immigrants, the criminals, the rapists, and all them, but really they just go after hardworking individuals and scaring the crap out of children just because they can. Well, this judge was accused of being obstruction because she may have concealed or helped an illegal immigrant evade arrest. Now, of course, the whole story is bullshit anyway because ICE is basically empowered and SCOTUS have basically said racial profiling is legal. But apparently, this jury did find Judge Hannah Duggan guilty of obstruction. But they did not, but force for concealing an individual to prevent arrest, they did acquit her of that. So what does that mean? She will get a slap on the wrist. She will still be in a judge's position. Of course, there will be a mark on the record. But that alone just, see, the thing about it is, of course, well, it's obstruction, judge, she can still face 5 years in prison. She's a judge. She's never been in trouble. It's not going to be there. More than likely, it's going to be broken down to probation, but she'll still be able to keep her job. Just let that go, lawyer analyst. But it amazes me so that, okay, so if she did or did not decide to help an individual, so what? Because in my mind, I'm like, that's a small price I would pay. Well, you're telling me, Will, that you would tell the Gestapo? I would say, fuck ICE. I would say, fuck ICE, Barbie. I would say, fuck the Gestapo. Fuck the Department of Homeland Security. Did you see anybody? Nope. Well, did you see which way they went? Nope. They ran right past you. I didn't see shit. You're just not going to help us. You're not going to help us keep these illegal immigrants. I'm not going to help you do shit, but give you a middle finger, say fuck you, and go about my day. I'm not gonna apologize for that. And it's killing me. I was like, well, it's just ICE. And I said, they've made a conscious decision. Because here's my thing. If you are in ICE and you still proceed to deport people that simply are just trying to make a living, that aren't criminals, that aren't rapists, that aren't gang leaders, that aren't doing anything outside of just working hard alongside the rest of us, and you make the conscious decision to arrest that person, to deport them back to an area to where great harm might be waiting for them. If you still do that and swear up and down you're doing your job, fuck you. Same way with Department of Homeland Security. If you still, there's a reason why local law enforcement, which I give them credit for, and I never thought I'd give credit to local law enforcement, don't want to work with you because what you're doing is wrong. Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem, who has blown through her budget, who can't help but do photo ops, but yet cannot tell me, but yet will detain those, especially that worked in the armed, that were armed servicemen, will detain them and their loved ones, but swear up and down that she has no recollection of this, but takes every photo op that she can to show immigrants being detained, trying to look tough when really she's softer than baby shit. But I'm sorry, fuck Kristi Noem, fuck ICE, fuck the Department of Homeland Security. And I know that's something that we shouldn't say in the journalistic world, but I'm going to stand on what I said because that's my personal feeling to it. Because they have made a conscious decision to not, you do have the ability to not follow, you have the ability to sometimes not follow orders that aren't right or illegal or wrong. But the fact you have a whole bunch of those guys out here that happily go up to these people screams volumes, and those will be the ones that I will never help. And I don't feel bad about saying it. I really do not. But that being said, we do have to get to America Fest. Why do we have to get to America Fest? Because outside the fact that it was the biggest dumpster fire next to them trying to do a Super Bowl because they didn't like the fact that a Puerto Rican is actually going to be doing the Super Bowl halftime show and has no problem being in Spanish, and that some people, who don't understand Spanish are freaking the hell out, we get to America Fest. Why? For all those that don't know, America Fest was basically supposed to be a Charlie Kirk tribute. And I know. Look, I said it best. And I'll say it again about Charlie Kirk. I literally have a podcast where I did a special on Charlie Kirk in his own words to explain the level of depravity that this man went through. that he grifted off hate. He created the monster that may have ultimately led to his demise. You created the monster, and you kept feeding the monster because it brought you back money. It brought you back TV time. It brought you podcasts. It brought you endorsements. It brought you all these things. And Kirk at that time had no problem with it until, I guess, that fateful day. Now, does anybody deserve to be at the end of lead poisoning? Absolutely not. But how you went off this mortal coil does not absolve you of how you lived. And we'll get to that momentarily. But again, America Fest was supposed to be all about honoring Kirk and his message as if he was the next how can I put this ever so nicely? He was supposed to be the next. They compared him to MLK. I'm like, no. And Dave Chappelle in his Netflix special, he says it more brilliantly than I can. That they said he's the white man's MLK. No, you are not. But that being said, at America Fest, which again sounds like the whitest convention this side of, well, Cracker Barrel, there has been some infighting among some heads, and for the rest of us, it's been entertaining. Observe.
Phoenix, Arizona. We are at the Turning Point USA's America Fest, which is their flagship conference. Now, all around me, thousands of the MAGA faithful and MAGA youth are here and really, really excited. But in the conference hall, there is a MAGA civil war playing out.
Ben Shapiro is like a cancer, and that cancer spreads. It's a cancer and it metastasizes.
Par for the course from a man who was once a PR flag for Jeffrey Epstein. What Tucker Carlson did, he built Nick Fuentes up, and he ought to take responsibility for that, just as he ought to take responsibility for glazing pornographer and alleged sex trafficker Andrew Tate, or for mainstreaming fake historian and pseudo-Nazi apologist Daryl Cooper.
It's not supposed to work this way. To hear calls for like deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? This is hilarious.
So conservative influencers have been fighting all week, mostly about conspiracy theories surrounding Charlie Kirk's death. But that's not the only issue. Another huge issue, as podcaster Megyn Kelly put it.
I mean, there's a rift, but it was starting even before we lost Charlie. And it revolves around Israel.
On the ground, we have seen conservatives fighting over this issue.
You are saying what the left says should be yesterday on white college campus.
Parroting conservative influencers like Nick Fuentes, who is a white supremacist podcaster who recently was on Tucker Carlson's podcast and who has spewed anti-Semitic hate on his podcast for years. And also creators like Candace Owens, who baselessly claimed that Israel was behind Charlie Kirk's murder. This is what people are talking about here at America Fest, and the young MAGA faithful are picking a side.
I lean towards the side of Tucker. I think he's asking good questions.
The reason why I don't like the Ben Shapiro side of this is that if facts truly don't care about your feelings.
I think Nick Fuentes is atrocious. I don't think he stands for truth.
The whole
guys, I'm gonna be honest. As a person that considers himself progressive, that just makes me laugh. To think that was a weekend. That was this past weekend, by the way. That where you had, of course, all the Charlie Kirk type people come out. Oh, the Megyn Kelly. Oh, since we lost Charlie, and of course Candace Owens, who says Charlie was her best friend, but still says Israel's behind his assassination. Ben Shapiro, who wants to down Candace Owens for her comments, and Candace saying "F you, Ben," and then Steve Bannon, whose white privilege looks like expired mail that's been out in the sun for too long, calling Ben Shapiro a cancer. And, and Tucker Carlson's kind of like the idiot stooge that's still coming around and laughing, but you used to be a part of this cesspool. It is literally, it's a clown car. It's a clown car that unfortunately has a big ass following. It's a clown car. You've literally seen individuals talk about, well, Tucker Carlson asked some good questions. Tucker Carlson, the douchebag who used to be a part of the three-headed dog ring circus at Fox News. Ben Shapiro, a man who does not understand female anatomy, but yet has questions about the WAP song. Riveting. And of course, Candace Owens, let's be honest, she thought Hitler wasn't a bad guy. Apparently, Candace, you learned to outwhite the whites by saying, hey, racism is an illusion, but there's nothing wrong with a Nazi. When you make white people go, whoa, we might be racist, we might be bigotist, but we're not Nazis. You were a little bit too radical for us. But the point I'm getting at here, guys, is that's infighting infighting in everything. And of course, the ringleader, the queen herself, that has now accepted the grifting throne that is Turning Point USA. Erika Kirk turns around and says, this man has learned to grift. Yes, he has. Because that's what America Fest is. That's what Turning Point is. That's what that's what CPAC is, and all these other conservative events and conferences all are. Grifting. Let us take to the ill-educated masses and let them know that people of color and immigrants are coming to take everything away from you. And yet you have to look down on your whiteness. No, we will not stand for that. Here, have a t-shirt, have a mug, have a hat. Show them that you're not afraid to stand out as we take your money. And that's exactly what they're doing. But speaking of Erika Kirk, because there's always a trash panda. They always gotta have there's always a trash panda. And I'm not talking about Russell Brand, who again was at the conference. Yes, Russell Brand, that guy was actually at the conference, entertaining, which I'm sorry. Did we not learn from Chrisette Michele when she decided to open up for Taco and yet her career just went, ooh? Have we not learned anything, folks? But anyway, speaking of trash pandas, and no, I don't feel bad at the Barbs for saying that, because yes, the Barbs, if you think Nicki Minaj is actually a great rapper, I question your taste and intelligence on a lot of things. But anyway, speaking of the woman that's married to a pedophile, but yet doesn't want to admit that, she was also at America Fest. And yeah, she kind of had a Freudian slip herself.
Dear young men, you have amazing role models like our handsome, dashing president. And you have amazing role models like the assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president. And when I say that,
trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. Yes, we did. I love you. I love you. You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back. And this is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord. And words are words, but I know her heart, and it doesn't even matter. And you say what you want to say because I know your heart. And I will not judge that.
Sister. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. Okay. She called you, well, he was an assassin. I can't stand the way Nicki Minaj talks, number one, because I think it's all freaking fake about her, but that's my personal opinion. But the fact that she called J.D. Vance an assassin, and of all the words you can use, that's the one that you use. And then you have Erika Kirk. Oh, honey, I know your heart. I know your heart, honey. And I know if that's the word you want to use, then go ahead and use it, because the Lord loves you and I love you. And it's okay. The internet will clip it just fine. And it's fine because that's the internet. Yeah. But you know one thing, Miss Kirk, about the internet? It never forgets, especially about what your husband said about Nicki Minaj.
Now, Black culture is
So I'll stop it. I'll stop it right there. And I think it wasn't her. So have me try it again, guys. I don't think it was her.
Which
And role models.
influences?
I mean, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B.
Okay, Nicki Minaj is causing dads to leave the home.
Hold on a second. I don't think that's a good role model for 18-year-old black girls. I don't think that songs that are talking about like glorifying wet female genitalia is exactly, I don't know which one wrote that song. Which one was it?
I think it was Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But by the way, the role models of the 1940s and 50s for Black America were completely different.
So it is a representation issue.
Hold on a second. No, not representation. It's who do you get your art from? It's what values are they putting forward? It's the question of every day. For example, more times than not, Black politicians will lament the condition of America. It's systemically racist. It's terrible. What does that do to a 14-year-old black kid if you just find that you hear that everything is rigged against you? Instead, they should be saying, hey, there might be some barriers, but if you believe in yourself enough, you can achieve in this country. It creates a form of social conditioning of low expectations. And right now, Black.
So I had to stop it right there because, again, he did not think, and yes, Miss Kirk, the internet doesn't forget. But your late husband didn't believe that Nicki Minaj was a good role model for 18-year-old black girls. And here's the thing I will always sit there and say. When a white man sits there and talks about the fact of what's good for black women, that should be an immediate sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up moment. Because who are you to sit there and say what's a good role model for a demographic that you cannot relate to, nor are you a part of? Instead, you have this father knows best white superiority. Oh, I just think that a woman like her who talks about her WAP and everything else is not a good role model. But yet you didn't realize that WAP was actually done by Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion and not Nicki Minaj. I'm just throwing that out there. But I love the fact you try to say black politicians lamented the system and yet couldn't give examples. See, here's the thing that I will always point out about Charlie Kirk. Because what he does, Ben Shapiro does, Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Candace Owens, Byron Donald, Tim Scott, they all do this. This is grifting 101, folks. They will sit there and sound so secure. They will sit there and sound so confident that because it aligns with someone's views, that person who hears it won't question it at freaking all. They will sit there and go, well, you know what? That is right. Or you know what? That does make sense. And not question the validity or dig deeper into what they're going into. But I love the fact that Erika Kirk just sat there and was like, oh, honey, I know what's in my heart. And the internet can clip it. Yes, Miss Kirk, the internet can clip it. But for anybody else, everybody else knows this. The internet never forgets. And it's undefeated. But to top off this chess pie made of caca that was America Fest, vice president and guy who doesn't do anything but gets paid for his job and possibly may actually wind up leaving his couch for Erika Kirk, decided to say the most Naziest white supremacist thing that you can say at a conference like this. And I'm going to let the man himself say it for himself.
In the United States of America, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. And if you're an Asian, you don't have to talk around your skin color when you're applying for college, because we judge people based on who they are, not on ethnicity and things they can't control.
All I'm going to sit there and say is how much of a load of crap that was. You do not have to apologize for being white. That's what it sounded like. You don't have to apologize for being white because you know what? It's all right to be white. That's how he sounds. You don't have to apologize for being Asian, but I guarantee if I kept that playing on, I bet you won't find where it says you don't have to apologize for being black. I guarantee that's not in that statement. I'm not going to go any farther because, again, it's a load of caca when he goes from there. That he says, we didn't need DEI. Yes, you did. And I'm going to say it like this because, again, outside the fact that he was basically just being full of crap at this America Fest, and that, yes, it is beyond obvious that this man is eyeing a presidential run, because Taco at this point, I'm not wishing death upon anybody, but the man does not look in the greatest of health, despite what the presidential doctors may say, because honestly, any doctor that says Trump is actually very healthy needs to have his credentials checked. But let's be honest what they're doing here, guys, at America Fest. They're setting the stage. J.D. Vance is coming out saying that he might be a presidential hopeful. And keep in mind about J.D. Vance, outside the fact that, he is a couch fucker, and the fact that he may or may not have tapped Erika Kirk. The fact that, his wife is Indian and is of a different religion, but sit there and says, I wish she would convert to Christianity. This man has done nothing except kiss Taco's ass and do his bidding. If this was Game of Thrones, he is the hand of the king. And the problem is with this hand of the king, there is a strong chance that he is trying to get the MAGA faithful to be able to get behind him in case he wants to run, which is all but guaranteed at this point. But to sum up America Fest is exactly what you think it is: a cesspool of shit. Grifters that have come to fleece the flock, at the same time supposedly supposed to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, who in my mind, again, is a man that grifted off hate and basically showed a blueprint of it to his wife on how to do it. So as I said before, yeah, America Fest was a shit show, but a masterclass in grifting a bunch of idiots who will wear merch, who will sit there and argue Fox narrative, lost straw man talking points that go nowhere, at the same time feel empowered, while at the same time their money goes out the window, their healthcare goes out the window, their food and healthcare costs go up, and yet cannot afford transportation or a home, but will sit there and say, at least we own the libs. America. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this as well, because if you know about the Epstein files by now, yes, the Department of Justice did release something, didn't release all Epstein files, a lot of redaction, things of that nature, to the point to where Pam Bondi, Taco's lapdog, isn't able to stomach it anymore. So what do? They get the Deputy Attorney General to start answering questions. Meet Todd Blanche, the next person that has to shovel Taco shit.
Let's talk about the redactions, which you raised. The Epstein Files Transparency Act prohibits redactions, quote, on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Has anything been redacted on that basis?
Absolutely, positively not. And that's another trend that is just simply false. There were a number of photographs that were pulled down after being released on Friday. That's because a judge in New York has ordered us to listen to any victim or victim rights group if they have any concerns about the material that we're putting up. And so when we hear concerns, whether it's photographs of women that we do not believe are victims, or we didn't have information to show that they were victims, but we learned that there are concerns, of course we're taking that photograph down and we're going to address it. If we need to redact faces or other information, we will, and then we'll put it back up. So we are in every way, shape, and form complying with the statute, which, by the way, is what President Trump has been asking us to do since before he was elected. There's nothing that he has to hide in the Epstein files. There never was. And even though there's repeated attempts by Democrats to paint him as being part of the Epstein saga, it's failing over and over again. And so you should not be surprised that the material that we released on Friday, or the material that we're going to release over the next couple of weeks, is exactly what the statute requires us to release, which is everything that we have from this case, with the exception of redacting personal information from victims and other statutes, privileges and things like that. Otherwise, everything's getting produced.
Mr. Blanche, I want to follow up with you on what you just said. You were referencing the 15 files released Friday. They disappeared from DOJ's website yesterday, including this photo of what looks like a desk with a drawer open containing photos of Donald Trump. Just to be very clear, to put a fine point on it, why were these files taken down? You're saying it was at the direction of a judge?
Well, you can see in that photo, there's photographs of women. And so we learned after releasing that photograph that there were concerns about those women and the fact that we had put that photo up. So we pulled that photo down. It has nothing to do with President Trump. There are dozens of photos of President Trump already released to the public, seeing him with Mr. Epstein. He has said that in the 90s and early 2000s, he socialized with him. So the absurdity of us pulling down a photo, a single photo, because President Trump was in it, is laughable. And the fact that everybody's trying to act like that's the case is a reflection of their true motivation. But the reality is anybody, any victim, any victim's lawyers, any victim rights group can reach out to us and say, hey, Department of Justice, there's a document, there's a photo, there's something within the Epstein files that identifies me. And we will then, of course, pull that off and investigate it.
Are you saying that one or more of the women in one of the photos or several of the photos is a victim or a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein, and that's why you took those files down? And will they be put back up?
No, that's not what I'm saying. We, of course, if we knew that, if we believed that that photograph contained a survivor, we wouldn't have put it up in the first place without redacting the faces. But notwithstanding what we believe, we don't have perfect information. And so when we hear from victims' rights groups about this type of photograph, we pull it down and investigate. We're still investigating that photo. The photo will go back up. And the only question is whether there will be redactions on the photo. And of course, if there are survivors in any of the photos, we will redact them as Congress expects us to do, as President Trump expects us to do, and as the Attorney General and Director Patel have directed the department to do.
Okay, let's delve more deeply into the redactions. Is any information about President Trump redacted in any of the files that have or will be released?
No, not unless it's supposed to be redacted under the law, which means victim information or any sort of privilege like attorney-client privilege. But I have no reason to believe that the lawyers that were working on this case were talking about President Trump, because he had nothing to do with the Epstein files. He had nothing to do with the horrific crimes that Mr. Epstein committed. And so I don't expect there will be anything redacted. But the short answer is we are not redacting information around President Trump, around any other individual involved with Mr. Epstein. And that narrative, which is not based on fact at all, is completely false.
The White House has said that President Trump is included in the files. Can you guarantee that every mention and every photo of President Trump in the Epstein files will be released?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I've said it 3-4 times now. We've said it before, and President Trump has said it repeatedly since before he was elected. And since he was elected, all summer long, he said the same thing. I have nothing to hide. And so, of course, that's the case. But let me just make sure everybody understands something. To the extent that he is, quote, in the Epstein files, it's not because he had anything to do with the horrific crimes. Full stop. But yes, if President Trump is mentioned, if there's photographs that we have of President Trump or anybody else, they, of course, will be released with the exception of any victims or survivors that we've identified, which we will either not release that photograph if it's just a photograph of a survivor, or if we do release the photograph because there's other individuals in the picture, the survivor's face or her entire body in some cases will.
Ooh, wow. Oh, wow. Wow. I did not realize if you get paid, if you're getting paid a 6-figure salary for that level of word salad bullshit that was just thrown out, I am in the wrong occupation. What Mr. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche is there for is because Pam Bondi is tired of basically the media. She is tired of the media. She's tired of being hounded by her boss. She is tired of being hounded because, again, she could have done what should have been done when the court ordered her to do it. The Department of Justice released the Epstein files because it's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. Because at first, you wouldn't let Speaker of the House Mike Johnson wouldn't allow a vote in the Epstein files until he had no choice. And then Democrats and Republicans voted to release the Epstein files. Then the Department of Justice was given a deadline by last Friday. Last Friday, they were given a deadline to release all Epstein files. They partially did release with redactions and make sure that pictures of other people were emphasized. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates. And again, you can argue about that all you want to. Even to the point to where old Bill himself sat there and said, okay, so you got me with a picture. Release all the files. I can just see him going, I want you to release all the files. I've got nothing to hide, not nothing at all. And if you got a picture of me with Epstein, I'm sure that Trump has pictures of Epstein himself. If he's only so bold to release those files. I know, terrible Clinton impression. Roll with me. But if Clinton himself said, I got nothing to freaking hide, release everything. And of course, they had to get a different mouthpiece. Enter Todd Blanche, who says a bunch of word salad. And I'm sorry, if I'm a journalist, I consider myself a journalist, but if I'm interviewing him, they would hate me in the control booth. Because I'm like, sir, that's not an answer. Well, there are other victims that we have to comb through. And a judge in New York said, well, sir, if that's the case, then why is it taking this long why is it taking this long for all files to be released if it's about a single victim? Or Mr. Blanche, it's hard to believe that Trump does not have any emphasis on this release of files when it has been said that your AG, Pam Bondi, has informed Trump that his name has came up repeatedly in the Epstein files. We have seen photos of him and Epstein. We have seen the controversial letter that he may or may have not written to Epstein. At the same time, Epstein says the one that hasn't embarked yet is Trump, and that's the one, and I've got something on him. And again, I would be a journalist who says, well, sir, it's hard to believe that our current administration, the idiot in chief, believes that he has nothing to hide when his own Department of Justice is acting more like his legal law firm and not giving the American people the actual files that were guaranteed to them by a vote by Congress, by a judge's ruling. At the same time, you are now telling me that somehow, some way, there are still victims being identified, but yet you cannot release them because of this. Sir, how do you expect the American people to trust the Department of Justice when you're too busy acting like his personal lawyers? I'm waiting. Because Lord knows if I get the opportunity, that'll be the first and last time you probably see me on camera. But I'm waiting for a journalist to point that out. Because what they are doing, the Department of Justice is acting more like his own legal firm. And even to the point to where they are making sure that Taco is either redacted from the files or that in some way, some form, that he cannot be brought up later for crimes that may involve the former child trafficker and sexual predator. You can't make this up, because it never ceases to amaze me that Taco always finds another mouthpiece that will do the verbal word salad judo and say very little and say a lot at the same time. And yet, Pam Bondi, if you ever do luck up on this podcast, you can do the world a favor. Release the Epstein files and then prosecute everybody that's involved. But we know you won't, because whenever Taco says how high, you have to take the leash off and lick his ass. Speaking of that, Taco decides that he now wants to introduce the Patriot Games. Except the Patriot Games sound real familiar.
In the fall, we will host the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory.
President Trump wants to celebrate America's 250th birthday with what some are comparing to the Hunger Games. But the Games aren't the only thing the White House has planned. Trump laid out plans to build a, quote, triumphal arc, like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, as well as events throughout the year.
On Flag Day, we will have a one-of-a-kind UFC event here at the White House. It'll be the greatest champion fighters in the world, all fighting that same night in the fall.
Yeah, you heard it. He wants to basically say, you know what he wants to do, guys? He wants to take one woman and one man, one young woman, one man from every state, every territory, and have them compete in the Patriot Games. I know a lot of y'all people are sitting there saying, this sounds a whole lot like President Snow. May the odds ever be in your favor. You cannot make this stuff up. You cannot, above all else, make this up. I mean, you could probably try, but it amazes me so that he is still allowed to go this far. And honestly, if I was an athlete, we want you to compete in the Patriot Games. Hell no. That'd be like every championship team that wins in America and you got to go visit the White House and that dude's still there. I will decline heavily. Please and thank you. But yeah, the Patriot Games. This man can't help but rip off ideas of everything, including fictional books and movies. That just screams problems. And also, Idiocracy was not a movie. It is a warning that we're now seeing unfold in front of our eyes. Just pointing that out. But the thing I also want to get at, guys, is that there is some good news, is that you guys do remember we talked about Black women in labor and the fact that Black women really don't really get the medical need and attention that they get. We showed 2 stories of Black women that were in labor one was actually turned away from a hospital only for her to give birth in the car, thanks to her help. Thankfully, her husband was there. Another woman that was, in labor, in pain, sitting in a wheelchair as the nurse just acted nonchalant, asking her questions and really not getting her the medical help she needed. And the fact we kept on saying that a Black woman really in her medical care seems to be the most overlooked thing when it comes to U.S. medicine. Well, we're finally getting a bill that hopefully will improve maternal care for Black women. And sounds interesting and promising.
Legislation to urge hospitals to develop and implement safe discharge plans after a woman gave birth on the side of the road last month. Mercedes Wells says she was discharged from an Indiana hospital after 6 hours, even though she was in active labor. Just minutes later, Mercedes' husband delivered their daughter in their car. Democratic Congresswoman Robin Kelly is proposing the Women Expansion for Learning and Labor Safety, or WELLS Act, in hopes of preventing something like this from ever happening again. And Representative Kelly, along with gynecologist Dr. Jessica Shepard, are both joining me now. Thank you both for being with us. Congresswoman, I'll start with you. Beyond requiring discharge plans, what other policies are you hoping to implement with this legislation?
My bill aims to deal with systemic issues around maternal care, racial disparities, hospital accountability. None of these things were taken into consideration for Mercedes. She was there. She was discharged, didn't quite understand why she was being discharged. There was no assessment done of what transportation she had or how far she had to travel, and she did not agree with the discharge.
Just unbelievable that this was able to happen. Dr. Shepard, it's unbelievable that this was able to happen, but we know about the rates when it comes to maternal mortality and disparities in healthcare. Black women are 3 times as likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Why is having a safe discharge plan so important, Dr. Shepard?
Well, Janae, I'm actually going to take it back a step further. You said the word unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. This is actually believable when we think of the United States and maternal mortality and care of pregnant women here. Because when we look at the rates of what we think of industrialized countries, we actually remain the country with the highest rate of maternal deaths. So obviously these stories are believable. So the discharge plan, from any hospital can differ, but I think it even goes deeper than that, that we really have to look at what is racial bias and what is inherent bias, and really looking at the system, because in the system are multiple people, multiple protocols, and all of these are flawed, which is why we have these outcomes. So I think that the WELLS Act is really one of the many ways that will help ensure that we have safety and that we have really that care, and taking away from racism when we think of medical attention when it comes to women who are pregnant.
Dr. Shepard, that was such an important point that you made in terms of the reframing around how unbelievable, but the fact that it is believable when you look at the data and the kind of stories that we see out of hospitals around this country on a daily basis. So a really important, still shocking point. Representative Kelly, you've worked on legislation concerning maternal health for nearly a decade. So what more can be done to fix this issue, especially for Black and brown women?
Well, we just had a forum yesterday, and we had an OBGYN with us. When Black women go to get checkups, they need to have someone with them. I believe in doulas. We have to advocate, for ourselves also. That is very, very important. We need to feel comfortable with the doctor and also the challenge. And that doctor recommended finding someone that looks like you, because there's been studies that when you find someone that looks like you, the care is definitely better. There's studies around immigrants that have had babies in their native country, and then when they come to the United States, that's when they have the issues. So racism is systemic and a very important part of this. And even though, as a doctor said, is not unbelievable in ways, but it's still shocking in 2025 when I think about Mercedes Wells and Carrie Jones in Texas, that we are still dealing with this.
100%, because regardless of how much or how often it happens, it shouldn't. And Dr. Shepard, when we do these segments, because we talk about these issues often, we're often, reminding folks that you've got to advocate for yourselves. But how can women better advocate for themselves, especially if faced with a doctor who might be ignoring their concerns?
Yeah, I think that there's multiple ways to do that. So to be short is to say that it should be more looked at over communication. We listed some of those things, such as having a doula, having an advocate, even having just another person with you. Because when we look at the underlying social economic inequalities, a lot of that boils down to what is the actual communication that's transpiring between the healthcare provider and the patient, and ensuring that everything that is being communicated is understood. And if it's not, then asking for someone else to make sure that that communication is being transpired in a way that the patient is fully aware of what's going on, and can also ensure that they get their opinion into that communication.
Important reminders. Democratic Representative Robin.
And again, I know it's a small step. It really is. But the fact that you literally have to put in protocols to ensure that women of color, specifically Black women, are making sure they're getting the best maternal care possible. Because again, I am speaking from experience with my wife, who did deal with high-risk pregnancy, with our second child, especially with our second child, that was a high-risk pregnancy. There was a little bit of gestational diabetes and high blood pressure. And again, I say this all the time. If it wasn't for a specific nurse that was there at the time that she was hospitalized, because my wife was having massive migraines, things of that nature, high blood pressure, the fact that a nurse went above and beyond to go talk to the doctors and say, hey, something else is going on, she really needs to be looked at. And I still say to this day, saved my son's life and my wife's life, because a nurse took it upon herself to really go to bat for her, because the doctors at the time were just giving her Oxycontin, and I'm like, that's not going to really work for the situation. But again, Black women deserve better care than what they're getting at, especially where, again, the fact that they are forcing hospitals to develop protocols is one thing, but it's amazing that we have to go that far, especially the more times we talk about the fact that when a Black woman is in pain, that she definitely does need to be heard, that, there needs to be more doctors who are people of color. Because let's be honest, some Black women do prefer a Black doctor, just because their concerns and needs will be heard out a lot more. And again, that should scream volumes about where our healthcare is, not just in the pricing, because thanks to Taco, everything's going to go up or at least double, but the fact that Black women honestly should be heard more in these terms to prevent loss of life or worse. Because again, like I said, if it wasn't for a nurse with my wife, I'm not even sure. I don't even want to think about the negative side of what it could have been. I'm just saying, Black women deserve better. Black women deserve top tier care, and it shouldn't be that fucking hard. I apologize for the language, guys. As this is being recorded for Christmas Eve, I apologize. I don't really cuss this much, but when it comes to certain things that are near and dear to my heart, language goes out the window. But again, I apologize. But a couple more stories before we call tonight, guys, on this one. You guys have heard me talk about CBS, especially for the fact that CBS is now beta Fox News. Not only because Taco basically neutered CNN, got rid of Late Night with Stephen Colbert, gutted 60 Minutes, made their editor-in-chief at the time resign, to where Barry Weiss was installed. And we've seen her horrific train wreck, especially with the town hall that she had with Erika Kirk, that was terrible in ratings and everything else. But she also systematically may have prevented, and let's be honest, not systematically, not may have, she did prevent a story that was vetted, approved, and at the final hour, because Taco didn't like how it sounded, instructed Miss Weiss to pull it. Although I'm paraphrasing, but you'll see in a minute what the story's about.
This morning, some CBS News employees are threatening to quit amid fears of corporate censorship. That's after the network abruptly pulled a 60 Minutes investigation hours before it was set to air last night. The segment would have brought viewers the stories of Venezuelan deportees sent to El Salvador's notorious prison. CBS says that it was still going to air it, but that it needs more reporting. Let's go live now to CNN Chief Media Analyst Brian Stelter. This is really a severe blow, it seems, to the network's credibility here. What are you hearing from journalists there, Brian?
I think that's accurate. This is a blow to credibility. Whether or not the piece actually airs in the future, and Editor-in-Chief Barry Weiss is saying to the staff this morning, this segment will air when it's ready. But here's what's odd about the situation. We can walk through the timeline, and I think it'll show how this doesn't really add up, all right? Correspondent Sharon Alfonsi had been working on this segment for weeks. She interviewed some of these deportees who described torturous conditions at Sicote, that prison in El Salvador that the Trump administration has been sending migrants to. So these interviews were in the can, they were edited. This segment was ready to go, according to producers, editors, fact checkers, and even the lawyers who reviewed the segment. As of Friday, this was ready to go. And that's significant because on Thursday night, Editor-in-Chief Barry Weiss was able to screen it for the first time. I'm told she had some concerns, but there was a sort of an assessment that the piece was going to move forward. And on Friday afternoon, this broadcast was publicized. It was promoted ahead of time. Alfonsi's segment was announced to the public. And yet, on Saturday morning, Weiss weighed in with additional concerns. And I'm told, according to sources, she was especially concerned about the lack of a Trump administration response to the reporting. Now, Alfonsi says in an internal memo that waiting for a response is unrealistic because it's clear the Trump administration did not want to respond to these allegations. She said, I want to pull up the quote here, their refusal to be interviewed was a tactical maneuver designed to kill the story. If the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we've effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient. So that's the view from the 60 Minutes reporting team. The piece was ready to go. It was in the can. It was going to be broadcast on Sunday. But all of a sudden, over the weekend, Weiss decided to shelve it. And that has created a real uproar inside CBS News, with widespread concerns about political meddling and about corporate interference. All of this coming as CBS's parent company, Paramount, both tries to ingratiate itself with the Trump administration and tries a hostile takeover bid for this network's parent company, Warner Bros. Discovery.
I mean, and it comes as President Trump has really been ratcheting up his criticism of 60 Minutes. Tell us more about that and the timing of this.
Yes, that's right. And that is the essential context here. You know, when Paramount...
So we're going to stop it right there because it goes basically into what we've said already, that Paramount, that owns CBS, were the ones that at the time wanted to buy Skydance. Now, for all those who don't remember, the CEO of Paramount wanted to buy Skydance, but he knew he had to appease Taco. So what does he say? He goes, Taco has a few conditions. Taking Stephen Colbert off the air was one of them because, again, he said Colbert was a terrible host and wasn't funny, but Colbert just told the truth about the man every chance he got. At the same time, he wanted 60 Minutes, especially for an interview that they did with back then Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, to which he says that he was painted in a negative light, although he wasn't even included in the doggone interview. But anyway, won the lawsuit. CBS actually did settle for it, also removed Colbert from their ratings, and at the same time installed Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief for 60 Minutes after the former editor-in-chief did leave. That being said, I also sat there and said, guys, this is what happens when a network caves to Taco. They become pseudo Fox News, in which in this case they did. To the point to where this story, to where they basically talked about the conditions that legal immigrants, the immigrants are under once they are detained, was going to be very graphic. Now, I will say this. Thanks to some people in Canada, you can actually watch the interview. Now, of course, we can't play the interview here. Why? Because CBS is on a copyright spree. The moment we do try to play said interview, it will basically get flagged. And trust me, CBS Paramount is being pretty good at flagging people, especially on YouTube and other social sites. I will tell you that, hey, a few keystrokes to the Canadian side, a few keystrokes to certain areas may actually take you to where you can watch the full segment, and I highly recommend that you should. Because again, here is the problem that you're going to run into, that Barry Weiss is going to follow whatever the Taco administration tells her to do, and she's going to run CBS the same way state media, we've always feared that it will become state-run media. Even more so to where we literally see one of the correspondents say exactly what we're thinking. Says a lot, doesn't it? And I apologize because I think it might, let me try it again, guys. I think it might have not. And I apologize. I don't think it caught it, but let's go back because it's really important that you guys do hear this.
In part because there was no interview with the Trump administration, according to a source at the network. Angry with the decision, correspondent Sharon Alfonsi emailed her fellow 60 Minutes colleagues, a copy of the email obtained by NBC News. Alfonsi writing in part, "The segment is factually correct. In my view, pulling it now after every rigorous internal check has been met is not an editorial decision, it is a political one." The veteran 60 Minutes correspondent says the story was cleared by editors after multiple screenings, and the Trump administration declined requests for an interview, adding in her email to colleagues, "The public will correctly identify this as corporate censorship." Weiss responding today, writing, "Holding stories that aren't ready for whatever reason happens every day in every newsroom." 60 Minutes has been in the crosshairs of the Trump administration, the president mentioning the show as recently as Friday.
60 Minutes has treated me worse under the new ownership than they just keep treating me. They just keep hitting me. It's crazy.
Tonight, Weiss says she looks forward to this important story airing, quote, "when it's ready."
Yeah, that part. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing, folks. Barry Weiss is that person right there. Now, she has been installed, handpicked by Taco to basically do Taco's bidding. And she killed the story. She literally killed the story about Inside CCOT, which is basically the Center for the Confinement of Terrorism. Again, Taco's Guantanamo Bay, if you will. And this was a story, as they said, this was a story that was cleared by several editors. And the only downside is, well, we couldn't get a comment from the White House. They declined the interview. Barry Weiss said, hold up. Well, the White House didn't get interviewed for this. Ding, 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 ding. Let's go ahead and beat the circle jerk, Miss Weiss. you're doing exactly what Taco wants you to do. You don't want a terrible light to be painted on this. And at the same time, Taco does not want to look like a dictator, even though he wants to be a dictator, but he wants to be beloved at the same time. And last time I checked, there's no such thing as a beloved dictator. But it is amazing to me that CBS has now become a beta or pseudo Fox News. We can't say anything negative about the Trump administration. Oh, no, we can't. We'll say everything positive, but we can't say nothing negative. And we now have an Oberman that's going to make sure, and we're going to have an Oberman at the helm that's going to make sure about that. And that alone screams volumes that it is censorship. It's exactly what Project 2025, for a guy that's never read the playbook, he is following that to a T. And I don't blame the people at 60 Minutes, because you're going to be hamstringed now. You're going to be hamstringed to where everything that you post or print is simply put going to be on the back burner or streamed through to make sure that you're not talking bad about a guy that doesn't need any help because he kind of does it all himself. But he has to do everything that he can to paint himself in a light. Why? Because his idiot viewers watch Fox News, and nothing screams Fox News like pandering to idiots that are ill-educated, but showing a successful white man because that's what they relate to. Tell me I'm wrong. But speaking of white men, because again, as JD Vance said, you don't have to apologize for being white anymore. I never thought that I would see something, and I do mean something, from the EO, from the EEC, from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, right? I never thought I'd say this, nor would I come across a video that says this. But apparently, if you're white and you face discrimination, they're wanting to hear from you. And I wish I could make that up. Here's the commissioner, Andreas Lucas.
Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. Contact the EOC as soon as possible. Time limits are typically strict for filing a claim. The EOC is the federal agency charged with enforcing federal anti-discrimination law against businesses and other private sector employers. The EOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all forms of race and sex discrimination, including against white male applicants and employees. Check out eoc.gov to learn more and read our one-page explainer about DEI-related discrimination. I'm Andrea Lucas, chair of the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Are you a white male who's experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money under federal civil rights laws. Contact the EOC as soon as possible. Time limits are typically strict for filing a claim. The EOC is the federal agency charged with enforcing federal anti-discrimination law against businesses and other private sector employers. The EOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all forms of race and sex discrimination, including against white male applicants and employees. Check out eoc.gov to learn more and read our one-page explainer about DEI-related discrimination.
Y'all, I thought for one freaking second that was AI. Like I kid you not. I was so freaking concerned when I first saw that. I'm like, this has to be AI generated because, with AI, it's always that scary feeling that somehow, some way, it's going to come up. It's going to be a problem. You're going to start wondering what's real and what's fake. That's real. That is literally real. Andrea Lucas, the chair of the EEOC, which off that 30, 45 second ad sounds more like a guy that's going through an ED period. Are you a white male that's experiencing ED problems? Unable to get it up? Not the same man you used to be? A little bit longer. It takes a little bit longer in the bedroom or just finding yourself not in the mood? That's what it sounded like. But what you got was, are you a white male that's been discriminated in the workplace? You believe that your whiteness may be working against you? That other people may look at you and say, because you're white, you're not going to get a leg up in this world? the EEOC is there for you because you might be entitled to financial compensation. I cannot make this freaking up. Between JD Vance saying you don't have to apologize for being white, to where the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is actively seeking out white guys to say, hey, if you've been discriminated against, come talk to us. We'll make sure you're paid. In the words of Don King, only in America does it make sense that a white man is going to claim discrimination. You know what it is? It never ceases to be amazes me. And Roland Martin covers this in White Fear. This is just the chickens coming home to roost. Because if a white person feels discriminated against, that's just privilege. You're getting privilege confused with discrimination. Because the last time I checked, the white man has more access to more things than I do as a person of color. The white man is seen as a threat. Yet if I'm walking by myself, apparently it takes 6 police officers for one of them to come talk to me. The white man is seen as non-threatening, while the black man is seen as aggressive. A white man can yell and you say he's passionate. A black man can yell and you'll say he's a threat. But it never ceases to amaze me that where the country is headed now is exactly what Idiocracy with 1984, what books like that, which we consider fiction, now may be roadmaps to where we're experiencing our own personal hell. And at the same time, how in the world could you make a video with that kind of straight face and say, white men, you are wanted and accepted and you should be paid for the fact, and you should not have to apologize for your whiteness? That, my friends, is the America that they want. And that alone should be effing scary. But that being said, guys, we are going to move on to our feel-good segment because usually on How the Frack got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes make you fake humanity. But hey, it is Wednesday. Tomorrow is Christmas. Of course, tonight's Christmas Eve. We will leave you guys on some positive vibes as we usually do. And we actually have 3 videos because we need a little bit of that holiday cheer. I'll start with this first one because I have always sat there and said, when you invest in the community thrives. And all I can say is Exhibit A.
Every Tuesday evening, about a dozen teenage boys meet at a community center in South Philadelphia.
Go ahead. Okay, now.
To learn the basics of carpentry.
Ever since I joined, it's like I've been learning so much stuff.
Through Unity in the Community, an anti-gun violence nonprofit, teens like Eric Randall, who lost his cousin to gun violence in 2014, learned the power of putting down a weapon and picking up a power drill.
The fact that we're anti-gun violence, we show all the young people that you don't got to be carrying guns and all that.
The organization aims to guide the teens in a city with a long history of high youth crime to not just survive, but thrive.
Listen, this is what you do.
Through skill-based learning. But it doesn't happen just one day a week. On Mondays, the teens learn to fix cars. On Tuesdays, it's carpentry. And on Thursdays, they have therapy, the one part of the academy that's mandatory.
Did you ever think about therapy before this program?
No, I was one of the ones that's like, what do I need therapy for? It was about emotional maturity.
In addition to the classes, students are matched with a mentor, go on several trips a year, and earn a stipend of $150 a week. Data shows that city zip codes with high rates of unemployment also have more shooting victims. While homicides are down around the city in recent years, the number of juveniles charged with a homicide in 2024 was nearly 9 times the 2016 level, according to the DA's office.
Let's do a circle over here. Come on, y'all.
Philly native Anton Moore founded the organization in 2009.
What is it about the city of Philadelphia that you love so much?
I love the grit and the hustle.
Given an opportunity, Moore says communities and the people in them can flourish.
A lot of kids come from rival neighborhoods. The more you with somebody, you get to know somebody, you're less likely to want to hurt them.
That brotherhood aspect has had a direct impact on teens like Kamir Blackson, a former student, now a student teacher.
Well, you want to cut it? You never know what people are dealing with outside this program. And this program is like a safe space for them.
Blackson, who graduates high school in May while also earning his associate's degree, sees working with his hands as a calling.
I'm in the process of starting my own business about that. Wow. And this program was a major headstone for that.
A proud moment for him and the entire class as they finished building 5 benches from scratch.
Fully functional.
How do you want people to see young black men in Philadelphia?
I want them to see us as young, successful kings.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be able to ask me a question. I give you my honest answer, and you can pay me to do whatever you need me to do for your house or anything.
Marquise Francis, NBC News.
And right there, that's freaking beautiful, man. And again, amazing what happens when you invest in a community and you invest in kids and you really, really give them the tools they need to succeed. They flourish. And I just want to give that man in that program in Philadelphia props, because again, you just love to see black young men come into it, learning a skill, learning trades, and being able to move forward and be empowered in their futures. That's freaking beautiful. But like I said, I usually only have one story. We actually have two, but I promise they're short because it's been a rough year. Let's call it what it is for 2025. It's been a rough year. And in the span of 48 hours, we've gotten two wonderful gifts. I'll start with this one because I'm pretty sure you've seen it, but it doesn't hurt to see it again.
In the early rounds, but right uppercut. It's amazing that Paul is still standing, taking the right uppercut. He knows he's been hurt. His hands are down. It's just incredible. And even if he does land his best shot at the moment, not that much is going to happen. And it almost, there's a left hook. And down goes Paul. 6, 7, 8, 9. Mamma mia! And it's in the early round.
Oh, that just does not get old. That does not get old. If, like I said before, that was the Joshua Anthony Jake Paul fight. I didn't watch it. I was actually on a podcast while this was going on, and lo and behold, we were at the end, and someone said, "Oh, there was a knockout." I said, because I'm not a fan of the Paul brothers, neither one of them, nor Logan or Jake. I think they're both overrated and blowhards. But when they said Anthony Joshua knocked him out. And on the internet we went, and the internet, you guys never cease to amaze me how quickly you guys can act. Because yes, of course, Anthony Joshua takes down Jake Paul. That is a beautiful effing thing to watch, because anytime a Paul gets knocked on his ass, especially a guy that wears Hulkamania and was pumping Tekashi 6ix9ine, you deserve to get knocked down on your ass. I don't feel bad about that. Speaking of somebody who got knocked down their ass, Mr. Top G himself, Andrew Tate. Well, let's just say we found out what Andrew Tate was. Not a gangster, more like a bottom.
At the top G like this. Big uppercut. And he's down. Talking about fatigue. Here's a look at Andrew Tate. His body language not great.
He's exhausted. Holding him down there. Still a 220-pound body on top. Big right hand. It's over.
Tate looks wobbled.
Yeah, he got hurt right there with that right uppercut. That was a tough shot.
Chase Demore trying to put him away. The Cobra. Hey.
The confidence is growing for Tate to work. A minute and a half left in the 5th round. He lands again.
Chase Demore unloading to strike. Tate eating shot after shot, trying to escape.
This could be the beginning of the end.
49 seconds.
Shot to the body.
Big blow from the champ.
The pop has gone from his feet to clean uppercut, and another, and another.
Tate might be done. Chase Demore. Can Tate?
And he does. Huge uppercut lands clean, but Andrew Tate something.
Not a knockdown, but we'll take it. So what happened in that situation is it came down to the fact that Andrew Tate did lose the fight to Chase Demore. But again, the whole idea of two guys that consider themselves alpha males, both of them lit up and knocked down their ass. And people like, oh man, you're that, why you hating on Top G? Because Top G is a top bottom. Yes, I said it. At the same time, anytime Paul gets knocked out on his ass, it's like the world heals. Both guys were knocked out by people of color. So, hey, that's why I love boxing. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, for definitely letting people know this is live and up and running. I certainly appreciate that. Before we do get into our shameless plugging, guys, I do want to sit there and say that as this will be on Christmas Eve, hopefully you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, happy Festivus for the rest of us. Happy Kwanzaa. And if you don't celebrate, Christmas, that's completely fine too. Hopefully this is the time that you can take to be with your loved ones, to relax, to kind of recharge the batteries for a bit, because life is lifing, and just to enjoy. Like I said before, if you don't enjoy Christmas, hopefully you get some time to relax and then get yourself some me time and some peace back in your life. I will also start and say, guys, again, thank you. I will say this in advance because this is going to be the last show. We will actually be coming back after the new year. But I do want to say thank you all, guys, for rocking with us for another year. Thanks for sticking with us as we cover the news. Thanks for commenting, for liking, for sharing, for joining us on the YouTube page or anywhere else. I cannot say enough from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for rocking with me. I certainly appreciate it. Now we can get to shameless plugging. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack We Got Here can be seen on APR TV. It's an app that's on the Roku channel, as well as the Amazon Fire app. You can definitely check them out, as well as other shows that can be seen on there. You will not be disappointed. Also, BlurStation.com, a site, guys, that is for us, by us, with content you'll enjoy. Movies, television, anime, you name it, it's there. $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station, and Blur Station can be streamed on all smart devices. Again, guys, you won't be disappointed. Also, check us out on YouTube at How the Frack We Got Here. Literally, if you type in How the Frack We Got Here podcast, we are the first thing that pops up. Guys, definitely like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button so anytime that you do know we are live or we have a new episode that's being put up, you'll definitely be notified about it. And again, guys, much like everything else, with this show can definitely not thrive without you. So definitely, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe to How the Frack We Got Here on YouTube, as well as Facebook and TikTok and other areas. Pretty much where you type us, you can pretty much find us. Also, my other show, the Give It Podcast, my video game, anime, comic book podcast, along with my other two compadres, Show a Guy Joe and Tafari TV. We are on hiatus as we did do our year in review last Friday, but you can definitely check out our show and other previous shows at the Give It Podcast on YouTube as well. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. If you are of the video gaming blurred nerd community, again, you will not be disappointed. As for myself, guys, I do have my own personal social, Black_Spartan615. You can like and join me there. I do usually talk to everybody, just don't make it weird. I don't want to need the habit of blocking people. Also, my other podcasting people also do shows as well. Check out Blurred's Eye View. Check out Roomful of Blurs. Check out Tafari TV, Fresh Press by Z, Show Quo, Lore of the Culture. I feel like I'm forgetting one already, and that's pretty sad. Navy Montel at BlurredCon Speaks, and everybody else that we usually see, guys. We can all be found in the YouTube spectrum. So definitely like, share, and also Geek by Heart as well. But definitely like, share, and subscribe. The rest of us, I promise I'll actually have a link up with everybody's stuff on it, as we are going to be changing some things for the new year. And also, guys, the last little bit before we do wrap this up, and again, I just want to again thank you guys for all rocking me for another year. Please take care of yourselves. Mental health is important. Mental health is just as important as your physical. Take care of your mental, take care of your physicals. Step away from the smart devices. Go outside and go enjoy the world. Go do something fun. Go check on your friends. Go hang out with your friends. Go do something that takes your mind off this world, because trust me, the chaos is going to be there when you get back, but you face it a lot better as long as you take care of you first. Always take care of you first. At the same time, guys, I hope the next year, I hope the holidays bring you great cheer. I hope this new year brings you exactly all that you hope for, all that you want to be, and you have it. If you are able to see the next year, then you have another 365 days to make it count. And that's all it should be for when it comes to the new year. Make it count. That being said, we will hopefully be back. We will definitely be back here after New Year's, guys, to see what happens in the meantime. Again, take care of yourselves. The world's crazy enough. Don't add to it. The last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allowing you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of respect that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman as the Federal Reserve governor, maybe one day electing our first Black woman as a U.S. senator in a state that is overly red, and then maybe one day electing our first Black woman to be called Madam President. all great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up in our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians in Congress, but still the same old game is being played? Most importantly, hi, the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we'll all get through this. Live long and prosper, guys. Enjoy the holidays and the new year. We'll definitely be back to give you the news. Have a good one. Stay safe. Stay strong. We're going to make it. Peace.